You know me, I like to buy things that are hard to get.
Do you guys realize that Phil Mickelson is playing these golf tournaments?
I didn't even read the article. I can do what Jason Sobel does.
Hey everyone, welcome to Reading the Green and our golf DFS preview show. I'm Mike, joined with Kyle and Jordan, just like every week. It is Tuesday, February 1st. We got a good show tonight. Remember, at Reading the Green, we are the only fantasy golf source that combines great player picks with insights on which fantasy experts actually give the best advice. The result is a bias-free approach that ensures you're not swayed by just reading one or two articles each week. So if you like what you hear, please follow us. You can find our YouTube channel, Reading the Green, any of the major podcast platforms. Follow us on Twitter at RTG Podcast DFS. Like us, subscribe, leave some feedback. We're looking to have some fun. Tonight, we got our Farmers Insurance Open recap from Torrey Pines. We'll look ahead to Pebble Beach. And first, Jordan and Kyle are going to a soccer game outside in Minnesota in February where the game time temp's going to be like -10. Guys, please explain.
The game time temp is going to be like 3 degrees. Maybe
with a wind chill of -20.
Yeah. So, yeah, So when they announced that this was coming to U.S.
What is it?
U.S. Men's National Team World Cup qualifying. Playing the game here, outdoors, Allianz Field, St. Paul, Minnesota. I'm, I would say, a budding soccer fan. Jordan's more of a longer-term soccer fan, but I follow a team that the Premier League. I follow a team in the MLS. Follow the U.S. national team. It's like, hey, we got to go. We got to get tickets.
Got to get them. First one in Minneapolis ever, I think.
Okay.
Of a World Cup qualifier. Definitely the first one in February in Minneapolis.
Yeah. Well, and like, oh, it's February 2nd. This is early December. Like, February can be a little warmer sometimes. I'm going to the Winter Classic. It's not going to be a big deal. Okay. And if it would have been last night, it wouldn't have been a big deal. It was like 30 degrees at 11 p.m. last night. But
so how'd you get the tickets? Because I know you kind of had to jump through some hoops.
Yeah,
so to get them.
They do a lottery system. You know me, I like to buy things that are hard to get. So they do this lottery system. There's different levels of supporters, contributors, all these things. And, the first group gets 20% of the tickets. The second group gets the next 20 and so on. We bought our way into what, Kyle, the third group of tickets by joining the American Outlaws, which is the national supporter.
We're American Outlaws.
I hear that.
But we both bought into it just for a chance to buy the ticket.
Right.
And I got lucky enough to buy the tickets.
Of course you did.
Win the lottery and buy the tickets, yes.
So everyone needs a friend like Jordan. Hopefully everyone has one. If we ever need to win something, it's like, hey, Jordan, enter this with me. Guess what? Jordan wins. I don't win. My other buddy doesn't win. And here we are.
All right. So how many people are going to be there? Like Allianz Field holds what, like 10K?
I was going to say 17.
Okay.
Good question.
Great question.
I bet you it's pretty full.
And there's a backstory here about why they're playing this game, right? It was something around they wanted a good hometown, U.S. supporting crowd, and so they thought, what's the location we could get to where nobody from out of the country is going to come?
Well, I think they galaxy brained it a little bit. So they're playing Honduras, the worst team in the group.
The Ocho.
Yeah, the Ocho. But I was going to say Ocho, but I figured people might not know what I mean. But
there's 8 teams left in qualifying, so they're calling it the Ocho. 3 go to the World Cup, 4 goes to a playoff to try and get into the World Cup. 4th.
You got a warm weather team, Central America, coming up. They should beat anyway. So they're actually taking away some of their competitive advantage, making it miserable on the players.
Mm-hmm.
They'd be much better off just playing them in a normal situation and dominating.
Well, this is, I guess, a soccer podcast for the moment.
Yeah,
so I feel like we thoroughly covered why you guys are going to a soccer game in Minnesota in the winter, but that's fine. I hope you enjoy
Hopefully we don't get frostbite.
You survived the Winter Classic. Yeah, you survived the Winter Classic.
It's going to be warm compared to that.
Okay. The other thing is not soccer, but football, I guess. They're related.
Football.
Yeah, football. Your Super Bowl menu can now be set. Maybe you're still deliberating, but it sounds like you got a couple of things that.
Yeah, I think I know what I'm going to go with. Cincinnati's easy, right? You got to go Skyline Chili. Yes, it kind of looks gross, but I'm going to jazz it up a little bit. Same principles and concepts. So I'll make it good. And then a shout out to Joe Buchholz, a listener chimed in last week. He's like, hey, for LA, if you're going to go like a corporate theme, you should make In-N-Out Burger. Hey, that's a great idea.
Some grilled onions,
I got to figure out my
special
animal
sauce.
Yeah, the animal sauce, go animal style with it. And, the nice hard seared griddle patty.
All right.
So In-N-Out, Skyline Chili, match off. Let's go.
Sweet. And then lastly, before we jump into the Farmers Insurance Open recap, I want to talk about these beers here because I'm over at Kyle's place. He said, don't bring anything. I got a lot of random stuff in my fridge. So what are we drinking? Because I have no idea.
So, yeah, stuff built up a little bit. The no drinking over January. Had some presents delivered to us. Some friends of the pod. Hey, if you ever want to give us a beer to try, we'll try it on the podcast. Give it a review. But we're drinking something from Fenders Brewing. It's out of Polk City, Iowa. And all three of us were generally IPA guys, but we'll try out some other flavors. So we're drinking something called a breakfasty, a brown ale. It's malty, nutty, and maple. What do you think, Mike?
Well, before the show, I said that brown ales are my least favorite style of beer. And I know my dad is listening now after last week. And so he loves brown ales. He loves Newcastle. So we certainly differ on that. And this was fine. I'm glad we're done with it. I'm not super excited about the oatmeal stout that's teed up, but
it's called the Morning Ride. Oatmeal stout.
Malty. Kyle, the bad beers were supposed to be our last podcast of last year.
This is not weird beer. This is just random beer.
We're just finishing clearing some space for the good stuff for next time.
There's no nerd sour coming out this time. Well, we're gonna do an official weird beer night at some point in the next handful of weeks, but this is more random. So anyway, while Kyle's pouring that, let's get into the Farmers Insurance Open because we've been treated to some really good golf the beginning of the year here. Obviously, we got another playoff at Torrey Pines. And, certainly shout out to Pat Mayo. And I've listened to a few other podcasts that were touting his picks because I think his two guys this week were Zalatoris and List. So you can't really probably feeling pretty good with your tickets when your two outrights are sitting in a playoff. You're going to cash something. But a couple of thoughts from Farmers. We talked about it on the pod last week that Torrey Pines has a history of wrecking the top of the odds boards. Like for whatever reason, like big names just get crushed and miss the cut. And about 27 holes in, we were texting and saying the big names are playing all right. Like what's going on? Finau was a handful under and Homa and all of a sudden 2 hours later, half of our lineups were just trashed. Finau imploded. I tweeted it out. It was Finau, Max Homa, Aaron Wise, bogey's the last hole to miss the cut. Brant Snedeker missed the cut. Our guy, Tom Hoagie, we'll talk about him a little bit in the second half.
Burns.
Sam Burns, all these guys playing the South Course on Thursday, which was their second round, just put it in the bag. So that's Torrey Pines for you, even on a non-US Open setup.
I can relate on the South Course, gentlemen.
I think, it might be, we should look at the data behind it too, of if you started on the South Course on the first day and then went to the North Course. There were a lot of low scores on Thursday on the North Course.
Yeah, it's a great point. It was the list of guys that missed the cut just barely, that were inside the cut line to start the second round was just pretty fascinating. A lot of talk this week about Will Zalatoris and his putting. The dude, he parred the last 13 holes of his final round. Like he couldn't do anything to separate himself, and he had the lead, which felt like forever. And it was a matter of time until someone come up and took it away from him. But he had plenty of opportunities to get his first W, and he couldn't convert. And the thing that's kind of scary about it is, for a guy that's such a good ball striker, like even all the commentators are talking about his stroke, and like they're seeing some, yippee action in his stroke and in sort of the plane that he takes his putter back on. And like that needs to be addressed, or that's a problem.
You just
shouldn't that be easily fixable?
Just like a kicker, right?
Yeah. Right? Daniel Carlson.
Daniel Carlson did fix it. We talked about this. But yeah, I hope he can turn it around, because he's going to be a great player, but that's not encouraging. A couple other things. Do you guys realize that Phil Mickelson is playing these golf tournaments in January? Like,
only when the TV insists on showing him when it's 8 over.
He's just like, I don't know what he's doing. I don't know if he's just there to like have a good time, but he's not even playing remotely well. So I don't know. I don't know what his motivation is.
Has he made a cut yet?
No, I said that he finished 30 out of 38 at the Century Tournament Champions, and he just missed a couple of cuts. I don't know.
And he only went to the Century because he had to get
his pit money. Yeah. So anyways, it was just an interesting, I think Torrey lived up to the expectations, and I'm glad we got an exciting finish. Luke List certainly deserved get the W. He's had a long career, and his first win. I actually heard today that he's going to have 17 years between Masters appearances. So he played as an amateur in the Masters in 2005.
Wow.
And so his next appearance will be 17 years later. So it's kind of cool. Anyways, from a lineup standpoint, Kyle, like I know you had a pretty decent weekend, and so
yeah,
your thoughts?
It was good. It's so close to being better. Cash and Tears, and I really didn't think so. I kind of snuck in towards the end there. It helped. I had Will and List in a lot of lineups together, and that made my 20 max very solid overall, but so close to being great. Just Aaron Wise missing he bogeyed 18 to miss the cut.
Mm-hmm.
He had it. He was going to make the cut, bogeyed 18, and that knocked me down from being 6-6 in a lot of GPP lineups. So that stunk, but overall it was a decent week. And then the cash games I did have hung around because of having List and Will, a lot of shares there, but didn't quite have a perfect week.
All right.
You snuck past me in the tiers, Kyle. The last money spot, a couple above me. Nice work.
We did have our listener league, which is being played for real money, and we'll talk about that in the second half here. But you can play DraftKings Fantasy Golf with us every week. A listener takes down the top spot and takes a few bucks off everybody.
Just barely, man.
It was about half a point.
Half a point. So Jason Day birdied 18, and Will missed the putt to win it, which I don't think any of us actually thought he was going to make it. But that I was in first at that point, and that made me only up by 9.5, and I had Will and List getting first place points. So when split off was done and one fell to second place, that's a 10-point difference. I lost by 0.5. But congratulations, Derek. You took it home this week. I'm coming for you.
Can we talk about if playoff holes should count with pars and birdies? It counts for the first and second place.
It does. And I am torn on this, and because as we're watching a little hockey here too, overtime counts in overtime goals count like a regulation goal.
A shot, a block.
All those stats count. And so yes, in a golf playoff, and I don't know if it's because what did Bryson and Cantlay do last year in one of the FedEx events? They went like 6 holes, right? Like all of a sudden a guy's getting an extra 6 holes of scoring like that. I don't know. Maybe that's just not seen as fair playing field, but
I guess in hockey, most of the guys get a shot at playing. 60% of your lineup usually gets out there unless they score right away. I hadn't really thought about it before, Jordan.
Well, yeah, I don't know. It doesn't seem. I mean, most playoffs don't go that far, but I agree. It does seem a little inconsistent. On just to wrap up the Farmers, we talked a little bit about the contributors, and just to remind listeners, a lot of the analysis that we do is based on how we break down what fantasy experts are recommending each week. And so we follow very closely who the fantasy experts pick, and then we grade that out and score that out accordingly so that we can figure out who gives the best advice. Pat Mayo, for like the 4th week in a row, was dead on. Obviously, we talked about List and Zalatoris being his 2 picks. The other contributor that had a nice week, Mike McClure, with Berger and Rose, kind of backdoor top 20 finishes, top 15 finishes, I think, but also would have been good spots to start your lineups. But certainly, like we talked about, we built a lot of lineups around Zalatoris and List, and that certainly paid off at the end of the day. A couple of landmines. We pumped up Tony Finau. We'll own it. We pumped up Tony Finau. So did a lot of experts in the fantasy golf industry, and he went 67, 77. Like that was really tough to swallow, just watching him implode on Thursday.
Yeah, he was at almost 50% mention share.
Yeah.
So of all the articles we tracked, nearly 50% of them were on Tony Finau.
Yeah. So, like I said, we own it, but it certainly hurt because he was at a nice price too, under 10K.
Great course history.
Right. It just seems, like I said, it just seems like Torrey Pines inexplicably comes up and grabs a few guys on the second round. So going forward, we're all in on Pat Mayo's picks, which is going to make this a very interesting conversation when we get into the Pebble Beach preview. So we'll take a quick break and we'll come back and give some recommendations. Hey everyone, welcome back. We got our Pebble Beach Pro-AM preview. First, you can play golf DFS with the Reading the Green crew every week on the DraftKings platform. Please leave us a comment on YouTube or Twitter, and we will send you an invite to join our DraftKings League. We have a whole bunch of listeners in there already. Like we said, they're already winning money out of our pockets, and so we're here to take that back.
We only haven't won once so far.
All right, that's fine. I'm just a little sour after this last week at Torrey Pines, but so here we go. The Pebble Beach Pro-Am at a great venue. We get a 3-course rotation, so everyone's going to play Pebble Beach, Spyglass, and Monterey. They'll play Pebble Beach twice. Everyone who makes the 60-player cut line after 3 rounds will come back to play Pebble Beach a second time. It's just really one of the most iconic, golf venues in the United States, just the perfect combination of land and sea. And I haven't been out there. I'll remind my dad that we were going to go after I graduated high school. And so that's still pending. So we'll work on that.
Just a couple years late.
It's all right. We got time, hopefully. And I'm looking forward to someday getting to experience that. So looks like we have kind of a great tournament, but a little bit weaker field. There's a couple of withdrawals, and so we end up with just a handful of players inside the top 50 that are going to be here. Patrick Cantlay as the top spot. Kyle, what are we seeing just as we look at the RTG model? Kind of what are we seeing in some of the top plays, both from a share standpoint and a power index?
You mentioned Cantlay. Yeah, he's coming over around 60% of our mention share at this point. And I think that's a good point to bring up, because we were talking a little bit before we started recording tonight, how lately some of these very top-heavy fields where you have 2 players on the pinnacle of their game right now, Jon Rahm and Patrick Cantlay, they've led our sheets almost every week. They're getting a lot of mention shares. And we maybe haven't highlighted them as much because, hey, everyone, we know you're playing Cantlay. Mm-hmm. We know you're getting Jon Rahm shares. So we're trying to focus on people that can help you build out your lineup, not just highlighting the most expensive guy. But this week, yes, Patrick Cantlay's up there at the high mention share. Obviously, Daniel Berger is as well, who's a little cheaper at $700 less than salary, but similar mention share. Also plays historically well in the California Swing and the run in the winter last year. But after that, we get a little bit of departure, a little bit of dollar savings, and Matt Kuchar coming in at 7,600 right now, 50% mention share, and one of the strongest MPIs on the board. We do have only about 80% of articles in, but
I think that one's going to stick. Yeah, and I think this is a good setup for someone like Kuchar, who isn't a long hitter by any means, and that's some of the feedback, which is that all these courses are relatively short. I know it's going to be talked about a lot. Yes, that neutralizes a little bit the emphasis of the tee game, but I heard an interesting point that is, yes, you don't need the length off the tee to play well at the Pebble courses. However, that does still mean you're probably hitting longer clubs into the green than your longer hitting competitors. And so just length in general is going to help here, but off the tee, not required. So someone like Matt Kuchar certainly has the ability to be competitive on these three courses.
Next guy I wanted to highlight, coming in at 36% mention share so far, but a very solid MPI, is none other than your favorite PGA Tour pro, Mike.
Tom Hoge.
Correct.
And I was saying, and I don't need to get into the history. Tom and I do not know each other. We'll just start with that. But
friend of the pod.
But he's a friend of the pod. We have crossed paths a number of times playing golf in the Fargo, North Dakota, northern Minnesota area, and it's just kind of funny to see a guy that I've been in the same field with in a number of tournaments. Now we're griping at him being $8,500 on DraftKings like he doesn't deserve it. And the reality is that he kind of does deserve it. In this field, he deserves it. He had a nice finish here last year. He's had a couple of top fives already this year. Like he's a little boomer bust, right? He's either like missing cuts like he did last week, or he's finishing high up the leaderboard, and I think that's awesome. It's just cool to see how far that's come since we were chipping it around 10 years ago on some of these short courses.
It's kind of funny. The first time I remember recognizing Tom Hoge was Pebble last year, because he went into Sunday.
I think he was definitely in the top.
He was in the final group,
yeah.
I think. And
yeah.
I had been a casual golf fan, but DFS really amped it up from there, and I was I kept on forcing lineups with Minnesota connections or guys that I've seen in tournaments, and so he's certainly one that it's just fun. It's fun, and I'm going to be having a handful of shares of him this week not because of the storyline, but he's in a great position. This is a good spot for him to do some damage. So that's a great segue. I think we've talked about most of these guys, but who are your core three plays, Mike?
Well, I got a bit of a coin flip on Cantlay and Berger. I mean, it's pretty clear that those guys, just from a statistics standpoint, are well ahead of the rest of the field. So probably we'll have to make some decisions over the next 24 hours here of which one's going to lead my pack. I said I'm going to take some, take enough of Tom Hoge. I think he's probably a really good tournament play. And so I think in my core for a 20 max entry, I think would be good. And then it's hard to look past Matt Kuchar with a strong power index rating like he has in our model. This is a place he can play well. So those are the 3.5 that I'm looking at.
I'm with you on Matt Kuchar. That 90 MPI, can't pass him up. You highlighted why he's a great fit for this course. So he's definitely going to be one of the ones I'm looking at. Going down board a little bit, I think Russell Knox is going to be someone I try to mix in as well. Only $7,800 this week.
He played well. He played well last year in this event too.
Yeah, played well last year, and it is kind of a specialist course. It fits a certain profile, and I think he fits well for that. Coming in around 25% mention share at this point, but a solid MPI. And then lastly, I'm with you. You have to start with a Cantlay or Berger this week. You can kind of go back and forth on which one. One thing everyone needs to keep an eye out for is Daniel Berger. Last week, he was grimacing a little bit on Sunday. Had some back issues, I believe.
Well, I tried to tweet out. He like fell over hitting his tee shot on Saturday afternoon on the first hole. Like
Saturday. Sorry,
the final round. Yeah, he like it was clearly bothering him. He obviously stuck it out, but I actually texted and said I think he's going to withdraw. Like he almost fell over. So
I think Mike, we need to regroup there on you tried to text that out. Or tweet that out.
I'll tell you why.
Tried to tweet that out.
This is exactly what happened. I watched the replay, or I watched it live, and I was like, oh my God, he almost fell over. Like, he's going to withdraw. And then I rewinded 15 seconds and went to play back. And like the moment, it's like he got to the top of his swing, and then the footage lagged, and then it caught up again, and he was on his follow through. And so there was nothing I couldn't get a capture of the video because it kept like lagging at the exact moment. So the whole
YouTube TV.
Yeah. That's what it was on. the whole joke was lost. Anyways, that was my failure, but I really blame the Googles. Jordan, who do you got this week? You got a couple of picks you want to share?
You guys have taken most of them, Cooch. I'm a little surprised there's no Spieth action. I know he missed the cut last week, but he's got 100% MPI this week.
Okay, let's pause and talk about that because I'm glad I forgot to come back to our guy Pat Mayo.
I was getting to Spieth as well.
Okay, good, because Mayo, what do we say? We said he's had 4 great weeks in a row. He's been dead on, and he comes at us with Matt Kuchar, which is great because we're all liking that pick, and then Jordan Spieth. And Jordan Spieth here has a middling share percentage. And he's been kind of absent. Like this is a pretty like low stretch of his professional career.
That it's funny. We said that, and I was kind of thinking the same thing. But I wanted to highlight tier 2. It was the tier I was going to highlight, which has Jason Day, who has great course history here, who's coming off a 3rd place finish last week. So I think will draw really high ownership. You have Jordan Spieth. Yeah, Justin Rose, who was great last week, has great course history here. Cameron Tringali, who's been playing well as well. So I thought that was an interesting mix. And like, man, the model's kind of pointing towards Spieth. He is at 100 MPI. Mayo's on him this week. So I looked into it a little bit. Yeah, he missed the cut last week. Played very poorly. Before that, he's been pretty okay. He hasn't been Jordan Spieth, but he's been decent. So I think for tier 2 at this point in time, I got to say Spieth is our play.
It feels a little, it's probably a little contrarian, and it maybe get an ownership break if people are looking at recency with Jason Day and even Cameron Tringali having a good weekend last week. But I don't know. We got to try, like we talked about this, Kyle, in the prep, we said, to reiterate why we do what we do, you listen to Pat Mayo talk about the case for Jordan Spieth. You flip over and listen to Rick Gehman say this is exactly why this is not the week for Jordan Spieth. And then we say, all right, so what do I do with this information? I have one expert saying he's my key play, and I have another expert saying he's a hard fade. We look more broadly, we get more data. And we see that Spieth, there are other people that are kind of corroborating that pick around Spieth, and it seems like an okay play.
And people that have been picking well lately.
Exactly.
See, and you guys always think my picks are all crap.
Michael Thompson. Who is it last week?
Michael Thompson, Patrick Rogers. Yeah, not the best.
No, they're not crap. But I think Jordan Spieth is in play this week. And I think it just kind of speaks, again, I'll say it every week. This is exactly what we're trying to do, is not be influenced by what one person has to say or one person has to detract away from a certain player. Like, we're looking at the bigger picture. Spieth makes sense.
And
especially if that one person is me.
One last data point on Spieth. Yeah, so he missed the cut last week. It's awful, 142nd. Before that, his 3 previous PGA starts, 21st, 20th, and 18th. And granted, at 10,300, that's not quite what you're looking for, but this is probably a weaker field than most of those events. So
it's a good tier 2 play. Like it's tiers is a good spot for that then, because you're going to still get a stud that you can pair up with him.
And just while we're talking about tiers, I should throw out there tier 1 as well, just because Will Zalatoris has withdrew, just in case you did not see that today. And keep an eye out for Burger's back. I mean, the only person left would be Cantlay at this point. So, free bingo square.
Yeah.
Possibly.
All right.
And the sneaky play of the week, the Olympics, the Winter Olympics are starting up. So I went back and looked at the Summer Olympics, golfing, who was doing well, how do they look on our sheet? Mito Pereira, right there. He's pretty highly ranked, almost 30% mention share. Doesn't have the best mention power index, but he's going to be my lineups. I'm going Olympics this week. And get it done. And there's no Rory Sabatini, luckily, so we're going Mito.
So Mito is Jason Sobel's outright play of the week. So
look at that. I didn't even read the article. I can do what Jason Sobel does.
All right. Well, I like Mito Pereira too, and so does the model. Lot to choose from, but I think at the end of the day, I think we've given out some good plays. I think Matt Kuchar sort of leading the charge from a value play for us, but also some really strong metrics, and hopefully see him play well. Final thoughts, Pebble Beach?
Keep an eye out later in the day, Wednesday or possibly Thursday morning, whenever our sheet and data get complete. We will tweet out those final plays, highlight 1 or 2 that are at the top of our model at that time. Like I said, there's a couple more contributors coming in.
Cool. All right. We'll kind of round things out here as we wrap up the evening. We have 2 weeks to do this, but where are we leaning on Super Bowl? You can revise next week, but if you got to pick today, not even with the spread, just where are you leaning? I think the spread's Rams 4.5, but
I mean, it's going to be tough for Cincinnati to beat the Rams, but was that last week, Kyle, the week before? I root for the underdogs, right? I'm going Bengals. I don't need the Rams and their 40% fan base. Give me the Bengals. They've been, since the whole state of Ohio's terrible at football, other than Ohio State, so let's give it to them.
I'm with you overall. My first gut is like, hey, Cincinnati isn't going to be able to pull it off, but I've thought that 3 weeks in a row, and here they are. And by the way, never listen to me on sports betting from football standpoint, because I'm not good there. A lot better at golf. Do not listen to me on football. But overall, I'm with you. Especially for the Rams, they've been aggressive, which I appreciate, trading picks for guys, but they've almost assembled an all-star team. They have Jalen Ramsey, they brought in Von Miller. They've been really aggressive. So with you, cheer for the underdog. Let's go Joe Burrow and hashtag swag, right?
Yeah. Hashtag swag. Swag. We didn't cover swag today, but they just tweeted out after Brady's official retirement announcement. They've made like 5 Brady covers, because they always do the Super Bowl winners. They make, covers for the Super Bowl winners. And there's a 4 or 5, maybe 4 Tom Brady covers that they've released. So.
All right. Well, yeah, we should catch up on swag next week, because I think that there's probably some things to talk about with cover of the month. And I know there's a release on Thursday, so plenty to catch up on there. But yeah, good. I think that's probably enough for tonight. Last call for the Listener League. Please tweet at us or find us on YouTube. We'd love to pull some more people into that. Good luck this week with your lineups at Pebble Beach. Again, you can find us on YouTube, Reading the Green, or on Twitter and any of the major podcasting platforms. And we will see everybody in a week. Bye.